all of you to go beyond the algorithms, share, like, tag, call your friends, let them know that Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson is in the classroom. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and start the record button so we can get started. Hold on a second. I don't even see it here. It says that we're streaming. So make sure you start sharing. There's a little share button. Share it with your groups. There we go. Here we go. So, where we go.
You are streaming. Is there a question?
No,
Okay.
no, I see it now.
Okay,
Okay, so I'm going to start the record button. Today, we're going to learn about emotions and mold and metals. Oh my. So fasten your seatbelt, get in the moment. And what's the best way to get in the moment? It's time to dance. It's time to learn and grow together. Here we go.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here. Right here, and when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for
you. This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening and viewing friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are tuning into the classroom for the first time, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, I don't know, maybe it was you, or maybe it's me, because I'm on day 2 of my detox, which is changing my diet, changing my lifestyle. But the music seems slower today. Maybe I'm like on high speed or what, but still feeling good. And so because we're going to be doing the M-Cube detox experience, although it started on September 27th, you can join at any time because all the sessions are recorded. You can catch up or you can make it last a little longer for you. But we're so grateful to have Dr. Lee Cowden, and we have teachers like, oh my goodness, Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson. She's going to be joining us on November 8th to the classroom, because every Tuesday night we learn and grow together. We're not just doing this detox, we are learning about our body, spirit, mind, and body. We're looking at the environment, the body, and the emotions. And that is when Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson is coming into the classroom. She is going to talk about today, we're going to talk about mold, metals, and emotions. But she's also going to be a speaker, like I said, on November 8th. And I am so excited to learn from her today because this is a sneak peek. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Michelle is here to do just that. Welcome back to the classroom, Dr. Michelle.
Thank you. It's always great to be with you, Lily. I love being in the classroom.
I know. I love learning from you too. And so today, you're going to be supporting us. For those of us who are doing this in the M-Cube Detox, they're going to be watching this as well as your private lesson that you're going to be teaching us. But tell us a little bit about your background and how toxins play a role in our body when it comes to emotions.
So that's a loaded question. My background and toxins. So my background is that I have a PhD in mind body medicine. I have a master's degree in religious studies and psychology, a bachelor's degree in social work. And so it sort of has led me through so many different spaces. For me, very much divinely orchestrated, that, all of the experiences that I've had have really led me to where I am today. And, having a mom that had significant trauma, that was given up for adoption, a father that I wasn't raised by my natural father, but fortunately had a dad that just was so loving and treated me as his own and adopted me. So all these little ways of being in the world. And then my parents, just so much was about serving. And, we're very involved in the Catholic Church, and they wanted to serve the youth. And so it sort of sparked an interest for me. And then psychology, I thought, oh yes, I want to be a doctor of psychology. And then I got into my work, and it was like, oh no, that's not it. Health psychology was super interesting, and biopsychology. And then I had an aunt that had breast cancer, and that led me to German New Medicine, recall healing, and ultimately my PhD and my dissertation work with recall healing. And so that's a little bit about my background. I have 3 grown men, boys. They're definitely men, but they'll always be my boys. And my youngest just had his 23rd birthday yesterday. And so it's
Happy birthday.
Sweet. Yes. And so it's given me a lot of fruit, because my kids have been such a mirror for me to do my own work and to keep going, because I wanted healthier for them. And I knew that I wasn't super healthy when they were younger. And so over time, that has really led me to a place. And part of that definitely was toxins of, what I put in my body, and even the emotions of, the terrible self-talk and putting myself down, and just horrible things that I would say to myself. And so all of that sort of has led me to where I am today, and my passion in helping others to feel better about themselves, to really see that they're, wonderful gifts, and that all of us has special purpose and meaning for being here. And so that's my passion and my thirst for life.
Well, as you say all these things, I remember last time that you were in the classroom, I said, you're like my favorite connect the dots person. You see the connections, and it's like a gift for you. And how sometimes, everybody has a calling, but your calling when it comes so easy for you, and people go, how did you do that? And so your calling is to make that connection of dots. And it's amazing how your story weaves into that knowledge that you share today, that wisdom that you share today of connecting the dots. When you say the story that, your mom was given up for adoption, your father wasn't there, and your father, your father that raised you adopted you. All these things people dismiss. How important are these emotions in our body, and how can it weaken us?
Well, those emotions are absolutely so important. Like, they're foundational, they're core to who we are. When you're given up for adoption, that's the ultimate rejection by a parent. Even though they're trying to give that child the benefit and the best life, the child takes on that as the ultimate. Like, they have no meaning, they have no purpose, that they're worthless. I mean, these are the messages that I hear over and over. Disposable, not important, unintelligent, mistakes. And, I hear, and I grew up with a mom that was like, oh, I'm sorry. And she didn't do anything wrong. You have nothing to be sorry about. But it's what I have come to call excusing your existence.
Mhm.
So when a person constantly says, I'm sorry, it's as if I'm sorry I exist. And so that is part of how we reframe. But if we come with that kind of start, it really does make for a significant a journey to transformation and to actually discover ourselves and discover that we really weren't a mistake, and to really honor the fact that we were absolutely meant to be here, even if our parents didn't understand that.
I'm still like the words that you just said, I'm sorry. If you say I'm sorry a lot, that the equivalent to that is I am sorry I exist. So what do you tell somebody that is constantly apologizing, to even if they didn't have anything to do with it? What would be your first words of wisdom? Because that just like struck me.
I would say, why are you sorry? You didn't do anything wrong. And then it happens frequently on a workshop. And so, and especially when you're in person, but even in online, I have noticed it. Oh, I'm sorry. Or, oh, I don't want to take your time. You paid to be here. You're important. Your question is important. You don't owe me an explanation or an apology at all. And so that's what I would just start to get. The key is really 80% of that is about awareness, bringing to the surface that they even have that, because most people don't even know that they're carrying around that message, but once you start to say, why are you sorry? You didn't do anything wrong. You don't owe anybody an apology. And so to really get them and take a breath before you want to say you're sorry, check in. Did you really do something wrong? Because if you did something wrong, okay, great, say you're sorry. But if you didn't, then there's no reason to apologize, and check in about that.
What if you're sorry that happened to the other person? I'm sorry that happened to you.
That's different, right?
Okay.
And so I would make the distinction that is different, that and a person might say, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you, not I'm sorry I did it, because there is a distinction of taking the blame, and then there's Ho'oponopono, but it's a totally different thing that we won't go down right this second. But yes, I think that is the biggest difference.
So I see so many people, and of course I have always loved health and wellness. And I've said to you before that I always wanted to be a pharmaceutical rep, and I wanted to work with doctors, and I thought I was going to be a nurse, but I wanted to be this. I wanted to be, it's like everything was like around medicine. For some reason, it always called me. But then I had my limiting beliefs about it. Like, I'm not pretty enough to be a rep, or I don't have the education to be a rep. So we kind of hold ourselves back. And I found that in my youth, I was chronically ill. How much of those limiting beliefs contribute to chronic illness?
Well, I think it's more about trauma. So the trauma creates limiting beliefs or beliefs in general, but the trauma leads the way. And really, so much of what we act out, carry out, is not ours at all. It's our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents. And so it shows up in our life. And then we carry that message. Like I carried the message, just hearing what you were saying. Yes, my mom was, because of the amount of significant traumas that she did have in her life, her ACEs score of the, early childhood trauma and these experiences that were so traumatic, that leads the way. So mom had lots and lots of physical issues when I was growing up, and I would see how doctors would behave, and so part of me, I was like, oh, I'm going to be a chiropractor, or I'm going to be a nurse, it never totally resonated, but I definitely wanted to shift, and I wanted to get away from that. There's a magic bullet, that there's a pill that you can take to make you feel better, because I saw that pills just led to more pills that leads to more pills, and that it wasn't getting to the root. And so when recall healing came into my life, it was like, oh, this gets at the root. And then it goes through and it can change all of these experiences that a person has and reframes them. Let me give you an example. I love getting to work with young people. And so I'm working with a 26-year-old. And she's just so cute, and she's a trainer. And so she had this, she was telling me she had just gone on my workshop this past weekend. And she's like, oh my gosh, there was so much that came up between our last session and this session. And she said, it was the craziest thing. She said, I had this experience where I went back and I sort of unpacked the bag about my first boyfriend when I was 16. So I was like, oh, automatically, she's 26. It's a 10-year anniversary. She does all this work. The next morning she wakes up and he has died. And she finds out this is like now. And she's like, oh my gosh. And she was still in touch with her mom or his mom. But she ended up being able to go and have this experience of closure, but bringing it all to the surface. And then she has this cat that was this guy's cat. So now she has this cat that she's taking care of. And all of a sudden she's allergic to cats. And so I said, well, so allergies are about separation. So I said, so when was the first time you were separated? Do you have a cat story? So then she shares with me this cat story about how when she's little, she's 2 years old, she has this big fat cat, and she takes the cat out and she throws the cat into the water. And then after that, the cat hated her, scratched her. Well, where did the cat scratch her? Right on her wrist, on the inside of her wrist, almost made it look like, she was trying to death by suicide, this little 2-year-old, right? But that led to all this other stories about she's grown up with a mentally ill father. There was this is the mediator part of the wrist of our body, and she felt cut in the separation. And then they had to give the cat away. And all this time she's felt guilty over it. That's just from this one conversation that we had.
Wow.
By the end of the conversation, we were able to talk about all of these things of the separation and how confused she felt and how overwhelmed she felt. And that was really the time when her dad started having psychotic breaks and becoming paranoid and was very jealous of her having any kind of attention from her mom. So the cat represents the lonely woman, and the claws are the nails, and that's in link with the liver. So I could just go on and on forever, but it was so powerful just to have that, in a conversation.
Wow. But it's being able to, that awareness, that 80% awareness that I would have thought, okay, she had this cat for all these years, and then her boyfriend dies, and now she's allergic to the cat. I'm thinking that's how she separates from her boyfriend. I mean, it's like, but you go in deeper. I'm like, okay, that's it for me. That's all, folks.
Right.
But with you go into all these other things that are just amazing. It's just amazing. Now, after you talk through this out, what's the next step? I mean, does someone just say, okay, I release this now? It's not in my body. I'm releasing it into the universe. How do we get away from that awareness so that you can have resolution?
Right. So the key is to get to the core. Okay. So she wasn't raising she didn't have this other cat for this time. She just recently got, like, the last 2 weeks, and now she's so allergic because allergies there's a separation. So she was separated from the original cat. She felt guilty over that. Now she's reunited with the cat. The brain remembers, there was a separation from not only the boyfriend, but from the original cat. And so by talking, 80% is that. And I think that we found a core issue. And if you find that, then it can just go away. And we have seen many times where it just goes away. Sometimes you do have to do some work. So I actually led her through some imagery where I had her forgive her little girl self because she didn't know any better. She was just a little girl, 2-year-old. They're curious. 3-year-olds are curious. And so, but she carried around all of this time, that guilt and the devaluation. So I'll have to keep you posted, but ideally by coming up with that story and processing it and processing all the feelings of forgiving herself, doing some EFT butterfly hugs, or the imagery like I shared, coming to more greater peace with her boyfriend and that loss, all of that can clear it so she's not allergic to the cat anymore.
Amazing. Well, I've been allergic to cats since I was born. And so in my heart, I'm just like, I see a cat and I think they're beautiful from afar, but I don't want to even go near the cat. And so in a situation for that with me, the moral of the story is don't get a cat. But for the greater universe, it makes sense to work with these allergies, which I've had so many allergies. And I'm hoping that now with this mold metals detox, that I'll be able to maybe do some of the work with you showing up on November 8th and telling us more, some of the visualization that we can do to kind of alleviate that. What would you say is, because there's a lot of people out there with trauma, and there's a lot of people that get bitten by ticks, they inhale mold, they eat, lots of cans of tuna and drink lots of like sodas and cans and have all these metals in their body, maybe even have amalgams in their mouth. Some don't even get affected by it, but then others break down and nearly die. What is the difference between the two? Both have traumas,
but it's different kinds of traumas. So if you don't have the conflict, you will never get sick. So a perfect example is my grandson. My whole son's family was living in a house that was totally full of mold, and from the apartment, it was a basement level and it was beneath, and there was mold before they even moved in, and they just, like cleaned the carpets and called it good. Well, Adam was the only one that was impacted by that, but it turned out that it was totally related to the whole story, and also ultimately with the brain tumor and everything. So it all works together. And so mold has to do, so if a person gets sick, if a person has let's say they do get bit by a tick and they have a reaction where other people can get bit by ticks and never have a reaction, then we go beneath that and we say, why is this? And we say the brain's best solution to this, that's the way that it works. And so when we look at that, then that can lead the way. Are we having an alarm or something? Do you hear that?
No.
Oh, I hear some alarm going off. That's super interesting. Like,
ooh, okay. Should we go deeper?
Yes, let's go deeper. Ding,
No,
ding,
I don't hear an alarm. Don't. Robert, did you hear an alarm?
It was like a phone, like maybe the phone vibration. Maybe it was just that. It was so interesting. Anyway, so if a person doesn't have the conflict, they will never get sick. So the tick, okay, underneath getting bit and having a reaction like Lyme is about having, the underlying conflicts are having to say goodbye many times and having a hard time saying goodbye, and having anger associated with those goodbyes. Also, Lyme is about feeling completely disconnected from your family clan, feeling like you're the Lone Ranger and that you don't have, the clan with you to support you, and that you're doing it all by yourself. So a person that has a reaction to the tick, that's the underlying, and that's what we would look at their life experiences and get them to process and talk about it. And then also to say, okay, like a lot of times it's not our blood family that's our family, but that our friends are our family. So do you have anybody that you do connect with? And then to guide them through and talking about those separations and how hard it's been, and maybe even some anger that's associated with that. That sort of leads the way to help a person.
To weaken the body so that there's a response, right?
But I don't look at it as weakening. I look at it
Okay.
more like a turbo function. I never say that it's a malfunction, that anything that happens in the body is not a malfunction. Anything that happens in the body is related to the trauma and the conflict that would allow for the brain to say, you know what, this is going to be the best solution for you. So I'm going to help you by giving you this sort of turbo function. No, you don't feel great. No, there's other ramifications because of that. But in biology, which is what it is, it's not about psychology, because we can think about things and think about them. Nothing ever changes. But in biology, it's really about survival and giving you, in the moment of the conflict, just a little bit more time to be able to resolve your problem. So
Interesting. No, interesting. That's really good. Okay. So what are the things that we need to be aware of when it comes to mold and metals, when it comes to our emotions? What are some of the triggers that we might want to look at that we say, okay, well, I have that. Could I have mold, or could I have metals? What are some of the behaviors? Like you said, with Lyme, you have an issue saying goodbye, probably have anger issues with it, and feel disconnected from your clan. So what about mold and metals? Do they have that kind of like line in the sand?
So with mold is the result of a person having deaths in their, and that maybe that they either haven't processed well, or that there have been deaths before and that their body is responding. A lot of times fungus is used to eliminate an old brain kind of tumor or an issue in the body. So we're going to talk more about that on November 8th. Okay. And so I'm not going to go into a lot of depth about that, but when somebody is susceptible to mold, we can ask, who died? Who haven't you grieved well? What are you feeling? Is it a relationship? Is it a literal death? Is it, the death of a dream? I mean, those are some aspects that you can consider.
Interesting.
Okay. And then mold and metals can go hand in hand, because we look at metals, we look at the different elements, the traditional Chinese medicine, and metal is in link with the lungs and the large intestines. And so we can ask again, did somebody die that I haven't been able to, to grieve well? The loss, do I feel grief? Do I feel sadness? Am I done with that process? The large intestines would be the last place a person can hold on. And so if the large intestines are, affected, then you can look at that, like, oh, who are you holding on? What are you holding on to? Is it anger? Is it upset? Do you feel stuck? So the lungs, so it sort of all goes hand in hand, what we're talking about with mold and metals, because metal is in link with the lungs, and the things that block the lungs is sadness and grief and feeling really stuck. There's a key word for lungs, and that is adaptability. And so how have you been able to adapt to the circumstances? And there's been a lot of things that we've had to adapt to in the last, especially couple years. It's been very overt, whereas before it was not so overt. But now there's a lot more that we have to look at.
Well, I mean, it's been around for ages and ages and ages. We're just becoming aware of it. Yes. Of what's happening in the world. For those of you who have any questions for Dr. Michelle, you can type in a Q in the comment section, type in a Q, write your question down, and we'll ask it. Also, if you feel that your question is too embarrassing or you're sensitive about it and you don't want your name out there, you can text me at 407-373-5959. The number's right there, 407-373-5959. And you can put in a Q, type in your question, and then I will read it to Dr. Michelle. There's just so much we don't know, Dr. Michelle. And when I hear you say these things, I'm like, wow, that makes so much sense. But at what point do we stop? I mean, I just did a recording with Dr. Cowden, which is going to be shared tonight for the MCube Detox experience. So I just did this recording with him, and he talked about the body, the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual. And he often says that if you deal with the spiritual, that the emotional and the physical will make a straight path. It will get better. And so For someone who's like, oh yeah, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to heal that spiritual? What does it mean to heal the physical, the emotional, for all that matters? What does that mean to you when you hear Dr. Cowden say something like that?
Well, we sort of view it the same way, because it's like going to source. And so connecting ourselves with our divine self and divine creation, and that we all have an impact on each other. So when we go to that place, everything else beneath it can heal. When we work from the body level, that's why sometimes chiropractic treatments can stick and sometimes they don't. That's why some therapies stick and sometimes they don't, because underneath there's more to it. But when you go to source and are able to deal with it from that perspective, it is like a home run, and you can clear it right away. Most of the time, most of us are dealing with it from the layer perspective. And when something comes up in our life that is super challenging, that really is an invitation for you to dive in and to look at what we say beneath the waterline of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg is in our awareness, but everything else is beneath the waterline. And that would include our life experiences, our project purpose, which is the 18 months before we're born, the 9 months before conception, the pregnancy, delivery, and that whole first year of life, and who we line up with, who we're named for, what's our birth order number, all of that comes into play. And so when you look at that, that also is a way to help ourselves to heal. And what's so beautiful is that when you do that work energetically, it changes your energy, it changes the vibration of the family, and it rises the vibration so that we really are more in connection with source.
So one of the topics that you and I talked about after the classroom last time was the importance of having a higher power. For me, that's God, Jesus, and God to me. But we say higher power in respect of others who have, maybe they call God Allah or Muhammad or whatever they want to call their God. That higher power, that's the spirit of that we're talking about. And a question I asked her, I said, well, what do people do? Because I have attended healing workshops that where the host will say, or the teacher will say to whoever they're processing, they'll say, what's your higher power? And they'll say, my book, or they'll say a bird, or they'll say like the river. What's that higher power? Like, I would say the majority of the people that were called into, and I'm not trying to judge it, it was just an awareness that I had, and I had shared this with you, that they didn't have a higher power, they didn't have a creator. And so when I were to look at their lives and some of the things that they were sharing, it was devastating. So how do you work with somebody who doesn't have a higher power? And that was what we were going to talk about this time, but here we are getting to it. So how do people heal the spiritual side when they don't have a higher power?
Well, I teach people first, like, once you start to see that energy shifts when you start to do this work, and that everything is about energy, it opens the door for something different. And so many times people have been so wounded by religion in the name of spirituality. And so that creates a whole new area that we need to look at. And so if people have been wounded, I just accept a person where they're at. And if they say, I've never had anybody say a book, mostly they just say that they believe in a higher power. However, if it were a book, I would say, well, then that's where you're meeting the divine. And that is, in that, there must be wisdom that is speaking to your divine self. And so that would be the door to continue to open. We are surrounded by animals and insects. And do you think it's by mistake that butterfly came on your car in that moment? When I was going through a really hard time, and I was in California, the dragonfly was always around me. And even on the freeway, I was going down the freeway for about 10 miles. A dragonfly was like following me down the freeway. For me, I can't deny that there is, a higher power, spirituality. And for me, I look at that, but I also am very aware of people and never force it down, but try to meet them where they're at and invite them. Ho'oponopono opens people up to this. Also understanding that, that changed because you changed, because something has shifted. I was working with a woman and she had a big rift with her family for years and years, but she did ho'oponoponos and she did a lot of things. And now all of a sudden she's back in connection in the last couple of years, and that things are even growing where she's even getting to like connect with the babies. And so all of these things are changing. It's not what we see. And when you have been super wounded by the authority, how can you trust in God?
Oh, I get it. I totally get it. I see
So
it.
that's where, those are the kinds of conversations that I have with people, and just invite them to a deeper spirituality.
I love it. I remember one of the names that one person used was Blue. And the person just like, you mean the color blue? No, I just call it Blue. So that, and she was able to work with her, but I would see that disconnect and how tragic it is to be disconnected from the creator. But I love the fact that there's a place to start. There's always a place to start, which to me means there's hope. There's always hope. Always hope.
Super interesting. Even the color blue. So this, how I go like,
oh, here we go. Let's get the connections.
Sorry. But the color blue is the healing color for the kidneys, and the kidneys hold the energy of existence. And so she was totally connecting to creator and existence just by that color blue. It's crazy, but we speak it and it happens. It's amazing.
And what is purple? What is the purple connected to?
Purple is the whole divine. It's our connection with spirit in that way. Existence is more about how we exist, what we experienced, our family clan, our father, our mother, and but that is, and purple can, it's like all the colors have healing colors, but
I'm curious because they have tried to hypnotize me. When I say they, I mean, as I do research, I want to kind of experience it. And I had done a show on past life regression. And all I could see is like when they're trying to take me to whatever place that they wanted to take me, all I could see was purple. All I could see was purple, and it would go dark and it would go purple, and then I'd see blue, and then I'd see purple. And I'm like, all I'm seeing is a bunch of colors. So, I mean, I don't know what that meant to her, but to you, it has meaning. And to me, it was like, well, that's what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing anyone else. I'm just seeing purple and blue.
Yeah. And I would say like, that can be, even thinking about being in utero, the colors can be like just colors because, something like that, or being in a cave, or I don't know, but those are some of the things. And so that's where we go.
Interesting. And I love how open you are to whatever thing, like when somebody brings anything to you, you're just so open to find, you're so curious. And I love that. And so that being said, with Dr. Michelle, I want to encourage all of you to be curious as well. A good place to start is at whenyouneedafriend.com. While there, please subscribe, like, and follow me on all social media, BitChute, Odyssey, Facebook, Twitter. I don't even mention Twitter. This is the first time I've mentioned Twitter. It's like
Twitter exists still.
It does exist, and some people are really famous on Twitter. But I keep it cool. But anyway, and also Odyssey. So please like me and follow me and share it with your friends, because I've talked about the algorithms, and I was focusing so much on the garbled algorithms that I and now focusing on the power of the people who watch this classroom to share. And let me tell you, ever since I made that shift, things are flowing so much better. And I want to encourage all of you to do the same in your personal life. And that's what Dr. Michelle is talking about as well, is that shift of seeing things, that awareness, that 80% of our awareness. So I want to encourage you to go there. And if you are a subscriber, you already have Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson's information, because every week you get a blog, and every day that there's a live class, you get the audio version sent to you. So please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Check out Dr. Jennifer Gramuth, who's a sponsor in the classroom. We also have the pharmacy in Merritt Island, who is going to be helping out in a way with the M-Cube Detox experience. And so I want to encourage you to support them the way that they're supporting the classroom. And you can go to the Shop Now bag. In that Shop Now bag, when you click on there, you'll see the M-Cube Detox experience, and there's partners that have come forward for the M-Cube Detox experience. That's molds, metals, microbes, from treatment to recovery with support. And we're going to be focusing on the body. We're going to be focusing on our emotions and our environment, all those things. And every Tuesday night, tonight, we have Dr. Thomas Levy coming into the classroom. We're going to be talking about hydrogen peroxide and how it reacts to mold. And he's also going to talk about the C word that we're not allowed to talk about, the virus. So we're going to be talking about that tonight in our private membership association, our private health association, membership association. Someday, by the time I'm done with the 12 weeks, I'll remember that name. Okay, so please go check out all of the partners, whether it's an affiliate or not. That'll help grow the classroom. Last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom. Please feel free to donate, whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month, whether it's your time, your talent, your treasure, one-time donation, a multiple month donation, whatever you can, it will help the classroom grow. And so today we have Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson, and she is at soultreetransformations.com. That's soultreetransformations.com. That's with an S at the end.com, right? Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. And she always has courses that she's teaching. I'm telling you, I don't know how you can do what you do. It is just so, you're doing so much, because you're also working with other countries as well. So share a little bit about how people can join you if you're doing one of the courses that you teach.
So just by signing up you can sign up through my website. You can call my assistant. All of the information is on the website, and you can sign up for the workshop. And I give about 6 to 8 workshops a year in USA. And so it's a way, and most of them are online still. I'm going to do a couple in person next year. So that'll be nice. I'm going to do
Georgia or in
Florida? One in Florida, one in Georgia. So,
really?
Awesome. Yes. So that one is a children's workshop. So I'll be talking about the children, us as children, and our own children as children, and then a toolbox workshop here. So, and so I'm giving a level 3. You can take the foundation courses out of order. It's more about what material I cover, and in all the foundational workshops I cover the basics, these basic tools. It's the same, and they just get applied differently. And then we cover different aspects like heart and depression and different mental issues, mental psychological issues. That's what we're covering in this level 3 coming up in thyroid and prostate. And so that's, if you're interested, you can sign up on my website, and I'll be giving that the 3rd and 4th, the first Thursday and Friday of November.
Wow. I don't know how you do it, but I'm glad that you are. I want to also, yeah, I want to also talk about November 5th and 6th for the Body Code. And that is in beautiful Florida. Cape Canaveral, Florida. So come on down, get your tickets right away. because they're selling out pretty soon. So if you're in the fence on that one, that's another way that you can tap into your subconscious mind. And I know that if you want to learn more about Dr. Michelle and Dr. Bradley Nelson, they were both featured in a documentary called Emotions 2.0, right? 2.0?
Yes.
And
And I learned from Dr. Bradley and took the emotion code and body code, and I definitely use it. It's fantastic. And so it's not, they're nice balance together. That's why.
Awesome. And I want to share that I got this cup. I don't know if you can see it, but isn't it cute? Today is going to be the best day ever. My friend Pat gave it to me, so I wanted to drink out of it today. And so it's such a great mug. Okay, so we're all about solutions. So let's talk about some solutions that you may or may not be covering for the workshop, the M-Cube Detox, which, by the way, is started every Tuesday night from September 27th through December 13th. Every Tuesday night, whether you can attend or not, we're going to be recording it, so you can watch it at your leisure. We're going to be talking about different levels of understanding of where mold, metals, microbes, even the viruses that are in our lives, and how we can learn how to get better. And so what would you say, Dr. Michelle, are some of the things that we can do today to start getting better?
Well, for one, anything that you suffer about in your life, it doesn't matter what it is, that needs to be addressed. Mm-hmm. So if there's unforgiveness or frustration, or you have big issues in your relationships, or even little issues in your relationships, all of that needs to be looked at. Because if a conflict lasts long enough, or it's big enough, then that's going to have some kind of impact on our body if we ignore it and keep pushing it under the rug and keep going along with our daily life as if nothing happened. Anything that is a pebble in your shoe, anything that is bothering you, that needs to be looked at so that it doesn't ever have to become a physical issue. When something is big and overwhelming, that is when it really can become a physical issue. And that's for all of us, me included. I've had my fair share of things that I've had to work through. And, none of us are immune from conflicts. It's part of life. It's what we learn. But we don't stay stuck there. We have to keep going so we can keep growing. This is one of our taglines. And we name all the places in our life that we have been in pain, where we still might be in pain. We claim that pain, because we hear people talk about the same story over and over again, but they never get over it, right? Mm-hmm. Well, they never drop into their body and really claim the pain that they feel about those certain circumstances, because that is actually what allows a person to move forward and beyond that. And so that's, I think, like the core of what to look at.
I love that. And, when you talk about people, I remember getting a massage one time, and the massage therapist started telling me a story. And I couldn't even enjoy my massage because they were telling me about their pain, and this person left them. And, it was just horrible. And so I couldn't even enjoy him. It was like I was, as a life coach, I'm like, okay, my mind goes into solution mode, right?
Exactly.
And at the end, it didn't even dawn on me at the moment, but at the end of my massage, as after I gotten better, and she was giving me the bill, which I should have given her a bill too, but she was giving me a bill. And I said to her, when did this happen? 20 years ago. 20 years ago? And they're still talking about it. What people don't understand is that when you ruminate, when you tell the story over and over, your body is reliving it. Can you share a little bit more about that, Dr. Michelle?
Sure. And also that if something happened 20 years ago, you can be assured that there's some other events as well, and before that as well. But a person, it's interesting how they might get stuck on this one event, but that's not it. You have to dive in and you have to look at all of the life experiences and what it lines up with, and what else the emotion that is repeating over and over again. And then, I asked the question, how did that make you feel? And then it's like they don't get to just tell their story anymore. You have to be accountable for your story as you teach, right? And so it's not about the story, it's about the feeling and the emotions and the the whole package of what is being created within that trauma. And if you continue like that, you're hanging on to that anger or that hurt, oh, this person, and then that victimization and all of that is going to perpetuate throughout your life. And you can be assured of it. But once you start to look at it and you unpack the bag and you honor it and you give yourself the love that you needed, because many times our parents were all doing the best they could with the resources that they had. And they fell short because they're human beings. And so sometimes we're really hurt by people that they didn't really intend that. Sometimes they did intend it, which brings it to another level, but it doesn't mean that it should not be worked on. And, because justified anger will kill us, not the other person, So
right.
That's why we have to sort of keep going. I mean, you can choose to not, but wow, like for me, why do you want to choose to stay in your funk when you can live a long, happy life by addressing these things and moving forward?
And I would say, and I didn't know the answer to this, but now I do, is that people can become addicted to their funk because they get something out of it. They get pity, or they don't have to do what they need to do. They get excuses. And so that's, to me, learning that is amazing. When I see somebody who doesn't want to get out of it, I can't help them. I can't help them until they're ready to get out of it. They just keep going back there for more and more fuel because now they're addicted to their misery.
Yeah, and that's what we call secondary gain, because they're getting a secondary gain. That's another reason, like, disability is not the greatest thing. I mean, it can serve a purpose for a little bit of time, but as soon as you start getting paid to be sick, what is the motivation to get well? So that is, that's the reason why some people don't heal when they've done all this other work, because they're getting some kind of payback from it.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely true. Okay. So let's answer some questions here. Okay. So Maria, Dr. Bradley Nelson for the Body Code Conference, which includes the Emotion Code. That's going to be November 5th and 6th. And that's going to be in beautiful Cape Canaveral, Florida. Okay. Which is close to Cocoa Beach, Florida, and where the rockets go up and all that. Okay. So I hope you can join us November 5th and 6th. Okay. So Trista, she says, how can someone book an appointment with Dr. Michelle?
So you can, it's a little tricky because I'm booked out quite a ways, but I do have some new practitioners that I have brought on board with me. And so you can contact my office and we can get you connected and get you working, through some of these things. They know a lot and are learning, and I supervise them. And so, it's a great way to get in there. So contacting my office, just, all of that is through the website, or I could give the telephone number. My assistant's number, Brianna, is 626-533-7019.
Okay.
And so we would
626-533-7019.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. What books Trista also asked, what books do you recommend for people wanting to learn more about how to make the connections?
I recommend you take a workshop because
good answer.
That is really how you're going to learn how to make those kind of connections, because we really bring in several lines of thinking, and this is recall healing. And so there's not that we have a book that is a reference book that you can get through me. However, the best way to learn how to do it is by taking a workshop or doing some personal work that way.
I agree. I am just amazed by all the information. Of course, Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson is a mind-body medicine doctor. And so, when you think of doctors out there, they're like prescribing medication. But if you think about it, most disease are lifestyle. Their lifestyles. And so how are you different than an allopathic MD, other than the degrees of the differences in degrees. What is okay, I've got 1 more minute. What is your advice for people that are choosing to heal the body versus the emotion? Let's go there. We've got 1 minute.
Well, so that's why it doesn't always work. When you heal only the body, it doesn't always work. And you also may, and if you're looking and you're just taking medication, then it's not going to get to the root and give you a lasting, long healing process where you don't have to be in that place anymore. And so it really is the difference. I use meditation and, looking at the emotions and making connections and looking at the big picture with our family and our life experiences and our project purpose to allow for the healing to take place, all body, mind, and spirit. And where allopathy is really just looking at the symptom. And so that doesn't get to the core of why.
But the symptom is the body speaking to you and
Absolutely.
telling you something's wrong, and this is pay attention. Thank you so much, Michelle, Dr. Michelle, for everything that you do. I hope that you will be encouraged to join us on the M-Cube Detox experience. Started the 27th, but it's going till December 13th, so join us. And please remember, thank you so much, Dr. Michelle. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Michelle LaMasa-Dawson wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever! Stay tuned. We're going to check out if you have any more questions. We'll check it out.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
I wasn't planning on doing a teacher's pet corner because I know how busy Dr. Michelle always is. But is there anything we didn't discuss today during the class that you may want to say during the teacher's pet corner that maybe you didn't have an opportunity to say?
I think we actually covered so much space and time, but I would just encourage people to really look at their life, see what bothers them, anything that comes up in a person's life. It doesn't matter. When it comes up, it's the perfect time, space intersection. And so it's reflective of other things that have happened that have made you feel exactly the same way, but it's ambiguous and you can't see it. And so once you start to look at it from, this is how I felt, so where else have I felt that way in my life? That's going to lead the way to clear a lot more baggage.
Beautiful. Well, it's up to us, as you know, my registered service mark is you can take a pill or you can take responsibility. It's not that I'm against the pill, but I'm for doing everything you possibly can to change your life, not continue doing the same things and expecting a different result. Isn't that the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So take your life back and start doing the things. Look at unpacking the baggage, like Dr. Michelle talks about. Look at it as coming home, like settling home. When you unpack your baggage,
literally discovering yourself through that,
Yes.
and so that you are home. And so that's such a sweet way of saying. And it sort of reminds me, my dad lost 3 really close people to him last year. One was his best friend of 65 years. One was my uncle, who he had developed a really close relationship with, and then another friend. And he was having heartbreak syndrome with his heart. And so they were like trying to load him up with all kinds of medication and do all of this. And so I literally started talking to him, Dad, why don't you talk about this, and process it? It makes sense that you would feel brokenhearted. That was your very best friend of 65 years,
Wow.
so of course you're going to feel a tremendous loss. And so he went to the doctors. The doctor's like, oh my gosh, your heart's so much better. What are you doing? And he even lowered his blood pressure medicine. It's been like so fantastic. So it can be. And, my dad's 78 years old. And so he really is has learned so much in that.
Yeah. It does my heart good to hear a 78-year-old person, turn to unpacking their baggage and being able to embrace loss and embrace. As a matter of fact, I think it's next week we're going to be talking about embracing loss with Kelly. Kelly Lynn. She's a former comedian who lost her husband at 45 or 46, and it's her story and how she's using it now to help others. And so, grief is something that people internalize and say, "I'm okay, I'm better," but it's not so. It's not so. Yeah, you
And
can.
heavy metals and colon and mold. You'll be susceptible because of those issues. And so they give you that invitation.
That's an invitation. Always, always. You can always be part of the invitation. Doesn't mean you have to come, but if you do show up and you show up big to participate 100%, it's amazing how much fun you can have. So thank you so much, Dr. Michelle, for being a part of the classroom today. Please remember, you can find Dr. Michelle at soultreetransformations.com. But if you are a subscriber, you already have that information. So reach out to her and thank her. And I hope that you will get the pleasure to hear her talk on the M-Cube Detox experience on November 8th. We'll see you guys tomorrow.